Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another player breakdown. This time, another rumor with a player we actually wanted to sign last season in our scout report, and the same players come up again. That is Lazar Samardzic of Udinese. This rumor is coming out today that we are now being linked with him and putting together an offer for the midfielder. And it looks like we're going to be competing with the likes of Brighton, Juventus, and Napoli for the Serbian signature. Now, this is an interesting one. And again, as I mentioned before, a player we actually called out to replace Lanzini last summer. Again, as we mentioned here in the brief summary, a set piece specialist, highly technical 10 who could facilitate a more dynamic possession based game. Now, we know Lopetegui is likely to be coming in. So, what is Samardzic going to bring to West Ham if he does join? And why are we being linked with him? Does it excite us? And what would we give it out of 10 if we were to pull off this transfer offer? So, let's get into the breakdown. Just as a summary for everyone, he's currently at Udinese, 22 years old. He's actually Serbian. He was German, but he switched his allegiance to Serbia not that long ago. Um, he predominantly plays as either a central midfielder or a slightly advanced attacking midfielder. He's more of an attacking player, just for context. Udinese normally play a back three. So they either play like a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-4-3 or like a 3-5-1-1 where he would be in the five. So he'd be one of those three central midfielders. If they're playing that 3-4-2-1, he's normally the advanced inverted forward on the right-hand side. So of the 2-1, he'd be one of the number twos on the right-hand side because he's left-footed. That's one of his big things, which we'll get into. But yeah, left-footed, likes to play on that kind of inside pocket where he can if they are playing in that 3-4-2-1 system. So that's kind of an overview. As I mentioned, left-footed. He's around 6 foot as well, so he's quite tall for an attacking player. He's not your kind of typical 5'7" or 5'8" Lanzini style. But yeah, just a little bit more context. He came through Hertha Berlin's academy, played for like under 17s, under 19s. He then got a move to RB Leipzig. Didn't work out for him. I think he played around 3 games there before they moved him on for around 3 million euros to Udinese, where he's been at for the last few years. He almost moved to Inter Milan last summer. That deal fell through. So you're kind of getting a feel for the type of talent he is. And, as it mentioned on there, the likes of Juventus, Napoli this summer are going to be in for him. Inter Milan last summer. So there's some big teams in for him. So yeah, in terms of his overall output so far this season, he scored 5 goals and got 2 assists in 32 Serie A games. So not crazy figures, around just 1 in 4 goal contributions, but it's not bad, especially for a young player. And it's more than just those goals and assists with Samardzic. He's a very, very good player and someone that could develop into an absolute beast of an attacking midfielder and could really suit the way Lopetegui wants to play. If he wants to play that 4-3-3 style or 4-2-3-1 style. We've seen him get some real good success with at the likes of Sevilla, and even for Spain as well. So, yeah, Samardzic, it would be a really interesting one. Just to give you a breakdown of his statistical side compared to the other midfielders. The big 5 leagues is kind of your top 5 leagues, the Premier League, etc. So it's comparing him with that. And you can see the kind of percentile breakdowns here. Just as a quick overview, very high in shot taking. You can see they're 95th percentile on the third column there for shots. He's averaging around 2 shots per 90, which is quite high for that kind of midfielder that he is. Shot creating actions, very high again, 4.61 per 90, 95th percentile there. Assists slightly lower. Non-penalty goals is right up there as well, even though he's only got 5 goals. It's comparing him with all midfielders in the big 5 leagues. And then you look in that second section there. Passes completed are a little bit low, which I'll touch on in a second. But again, the progressive carries very high, successful take-ons very high. And then, you look at the defensive output there, another thing we need to touch on. But in terms of what we've noticed from our analysis of Samardzic and what we've been looking at, very, very technical player, outstanding technical player, and an intelligent player, someone that's going to find those pockets of space. As I mentioned, when Udinese are currently playing that 3-4-2-1, he likes to drift into that right-hand side channel between the defense and midfield, find those pockets of spaces. He likes to combine wide as well, so he'll come out wide with the overlapping fullback in the 3-4-3, find the spaces, and then he looks to either switch to play, which we know we had real good success with when we did it under David Moyes. So he'll look for those kind of long vertical switches, or he'll try and beat a couple players through those progressive passes as progressive carries and take ons, as I mentioned. Um, he is not afraid to take a shot. That is one thing. It might frustrate fans just because of the amount of shots and the decisions he makes. Again, it's like a positive and a negative. A positive, he's a fantastic striker of the ball. He's on set pieces as well, which is another massive advantage. But his ball striking is excellent. It really, really is. It's just sometimes the decision for ball striking needs to improve. You're going to get that with any young player, but what I like about him is he's not afraid to have a shot. It doesn't matter where he is on the pitch. If he's outside the box, if he's inside the box, he will have a strike and he will back himself to score. And he's got a fantastic left foot. He really does. It's just about if you want to develop into that next step, sometimes the better option is to pass or move the ball on or keep it simple. It's not always, you're within 30 yards of the box. Let me have a strike. It will work at times for him because he's really good at it. But there's going to be occasions where he needs to develop his game and become a little bit smarter in his decision making in the final third. But that is what he effectively is. He's a final third midfielder who likes to contribute closer to the strikers. That's where he's going to excel. He can play a little bit deeper in central midfield because of his technical ability. Similar to someone like Lanzini, he had no problem dropping deeper in when after his injuries and playing in that kind of deeper 8 role. He was fine at doing it, but the best Lanzini we saw was pre-Lanzini injury, where he's in the final third, making things happen between the lines, almost as a number 10, as we mentioned here on his shirt behind me. But yeah, fantastic striker of the ball, Samardzic. Likes to pick up the ball in the half spaces. Again, can drift into those wide areas and put in fantastic deliveries from crosses. That's probably one of his strongest assets as well. Not just set pieces, but when the ball is live, his crossing ability is outstanding. So if we're going to be focusing on crosses and getting balls into the box under Lopetegui, then A, we need to sign the right striker to complement that, and B, Samardzic would be a fantastic option to be one of those creators, whether he's drifting wide from central areas and putting crosses in, whether it's set pieces, etc. So we're not as reliant on someone like Ward-Prowse. It gives you variety because he's left-footed as well. So yeah, I really like him. I think it's an interesting one. He's still raw. He's still got a lot of room for development. But Samardzic, there's no reason why. There's a reason why. Sorry, the likes of Brighton, who we know are fantastic at recruitment and scouting, and then you've got the Italian giants like Juventus, Napoli, Inter Milan, all circling around wanting to sign Samardzic because he is a very, very technical and good player. It would be an interesting move if we could bring him to the Premier League. I guess that's another thing as well. People will say, he hasn't really had that exposure to something like the Premier League. Completely valid point. And again, let's remember he's still 22 years old, and he does have a lot of room to improve and progress. And the deal could be right. He signed for €3 million for Udinese 3 years ago. His contract expires in 2026, so he's got a couple years left. I reckon we could get this deal done for around 20 to 25 million euros if we're smart and we act fast. Whether we'll want to gamble and spend that much right now, we'll see. There's a lot of recruitment that's needed, but that's likely a position we're going to need to have, an attacking midfielder, because we don't know whether Paqueta's staying or going. We don't really have that natural kind of advanced 8 or 10. Paqueta's more of a deeper player. I would say Kudus is the best suited to that, but right now he's playing as a winger. So it just gives you something different if we were to sign Samardzic. I think the two key things where he needs to improve are, again, risk versus reward passing, which is a massive thing in the modern game. That you have to take risks. We've seen with Paqueta, if you don't take risks in possession, you're not going to get that reward. And Paqueta can be so frustrating. His performances haven't been great recently, but when Paqueta was on it, he would make mistakes. He would try things. He would try and find those intricate balls. But when it comes off, it just unlocks the defense. We saw it against Man United. He was the one to unlock the defense. We saw it against Newcastle away. He's the one to unlock the defense. He's done it multiple times. But there is also that frustration with Paqueta where he needs to, again, determine whether the risk versus reward is there. I will always, and Mike says this as well, always advocate for a player taking a risk, especially if they're an advanced player like Samardzic will be, and a 10 or creator. It makes sense. You're going to have to take risks. But again, it's execution. Number one is going to have to be on it. And two, sometimes it does pay dividends to be a little bit more patient in your build up. But I have no problem with him taking risks. It's just he's going to have to get that balance right. And I still think he's still figuring and learning that out at the moment, Samardzic. So that's kind of one of the big things. And number two is, again, defensive contribution is pretty poor. I think that side of his game you're going to have to get better at in a Premier League system. You know, we can't afford, especially at West Ham where we're going to be rebuilding, we can't afford to have those passenger players, if you will. I don't think any team, any successful team really has those anymore. You know, you look at Man City, how hard they work off the ball and how defensively structured and organized they are. And, you know, you look at players like Phil Foden, Bernardo Silva, they work incredibly hard off the ball. Same with Arsenal. Odegaard plays as that kind of number 10 or advanced 8. He works extremely, extremely hard off the ball. If you watch Arsenal play when they don't have the ball, when they're not in possession, you know, he's pressing almost in a 4-4-2 with the striker. And then he's got the energy to create and find spaces. So you have to have that application in the Premier League. And I think, again, that's something he'll have to develop if he was to come to West Ham. But overall, this would be a very interesting signing and definitely one to bolster the squad with a younger presence and someone a little bit different to play in that kind of advanced role. And he's a fantastic set piece taker, which we know West Ham fans love to have as well. So, yeah, if I was to score this transfer, if we could pull it off, I would probably give it a 7 out of 10. Again, it would depend on the fee. In my head, it's like, okay, 20 million euros. If we can get that done, it probably goes up to a 7.5 or an 8. It is a very good signing if we can pull this off. It's going to be difficult with the competition that we're up against, but you know, there's no reason why we can't make it happen with that Tim Steidten pool. And again, it will depend on whether Lopetegui wants to go down this route. But it's an interesting link, definitely one to keep an eye on, and we'll definitely keep you posted on any developments there. But yeah, let me know what you think about Samardzic after watching this. I hope this was helpful. Make sure to leave a like on the video if you did enjoy the breakdown and subscribe as well. We're going to be doing lots of this throughout the summer for all of the rumors and links that we get. And we know there's going to be a lot. So if you ever want to find out about a player, this is the place to be. And yeah, leave a comment down below what you think of Samardzic and whether you'd want to see him at West Ham next season. And yeah, until next time, come on, you Irons.